What is up, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes? It's Brandon Collins back with another interview for the Media Popcorn YouTube page. This one is with writer-director PJ Palmer, whose new short film, North Star, starring Emmy winner Como Domingo, is taking the film festivals by storm. I had the pleasure of seeing North Star, and it is one of the most beautiful displays of unconditional love that I've ever seen on film. The story is about a rural rancher and his ailing husband struggling against poverty and isolation who have to make a heartbreaking decision in order to preserve the dignity of their marriage. Be on the lookout for this film during awards season. On our popcorn scale, this definitely gets a large. As always, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page to be alerted about all future reviews and interviews. Now here's my interview with writer-director PJ Palmer. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know Anna
Yeah,
going back and forth to
thank you for being flexible this afternoon. It just kind of
absolutely.
got jammed up, but here we are.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect place to drop off. First off, congratulations on a fantastic film and all the accolades you're receiving. Like you just received an award for North Star, right?
That's what we were just doing. Yes, that was we just won the jury award at the Oscar qualifying out on film in Atlanta. So we are officially qualified for an Oscar through a festival, and I was just sending an email over to those folks just now, thanking them again. Because this really it changes things for us, puts us on the Oscar map, and I'm really glad it was them that did it.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a film critic, and this is definitely I'm looking out for this movie. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
I think I told you in person, I had the pleasure of going to a screening with you, Mr. Domingo,
Yeah.
for your films, and yeah, it's such a beautiful, just such a beautiful film. So I'm curious about how do you feel that this story is resonating with so many people from different backgrounds?
So I'm glad that that's happening because that was my point in making the film, um, and it's working. It seems like it's working, right?
That's
Yeah, I guess a few thousand people have seen it now through festivals. Maybe, yeah, it must be in the thousands at this point. And so far, it seems to be resonating. I haven't heard of it not resonating yet, but that was my point in making the film. I was trying to make something that was about all of us,
mm,
right? That you aren't going to look at this film and say, "Oh, okay, it's about those people." Right?
mm.
I think that happens a lot, especially with films that have anything to do with LGBTQ. I think that that has oftentimes you sort of just get pigeonholed as, oh, it's them. They're in a category, um, and I want this film to be well, it is. It's about all of us, and including non-LGBTQ people. I think that you can. I think anybody should be able to relate to the main characters.
Hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
their sexuality is important, but it's not everything. It's sort of secondary to love or just being human.
That's what I was going to say. The biggest takeaway I had was the theme of love.
Yeah.
And, I think I mentioned to you, seeing James and Craig's relationship was very beautiful for me because it reminded me of my grandparents and my
Yeah.
grandmother slowly, succumbing to her illness and my grandfather taking care of her, like carrying her and
Yeah.
getting up after her. And it was just very beautiful. And I'll ask you about the bathtub scene in a second, but
Okay.
I, I was curious about what made you want to tell this story. Why was North Star the right project for you right now?
Well, I knew some folks where I grew up is actually where we shot the film in Trinity County, way up in Northern California.
Yep.
Um,
Where there was
very,
no phone signal, right? You talked about
I
that.
mean, where we shot, yeah, there was no signal. And probably isn't where we lived either. I don't think there are cell towers up there. There's very few. And some friends of ours had this happen to them where the one partner, she became very ill and needed to be cared for, and the way her husband took care of her was so beautiful, and I just so inspired by their love, and I kept thinking like, oh, he's her North Star. Like love is true north, right? And
Yeah.
so I sort of got inspired by that story. I mean, sort of, it very much did, but what it became was a much bigger film, a longer story, as I applied my own relationship and life to it, and
Mhm.
sort of some of the things I've dealt with in my own relationship. So it started there as sort of a kernel of like, hey, here's this beautiful love story, but we're going to take it, and I was able to add my own sort of self to it and be vulnerable, and which is scary to do, but here I am, I did it, and that's where it came from. That's exactly where it came from.
Got it. What was behind the decision to keep Craig's illness ambiguous?
Well, that goes back to I figured out that that was a good way to let people attach themselves to the film. Because what I've noticed is that most viewers, and even back when the script was being read by reviewers, even readers of the script and the viewers of the film, they seem to know what the illness is, even though we never say what it is.
Mm.
And it's a way to allow the audience to project their own sort of life onto the film because we didn't say what it was.
Yeah.
And we didn't say that he's got, Parkinson's, or he's got some, he's had a stroke, or he fell terribly, or whatever it is, got cancer. We don't say. But we do show a lot. We show a lot. And we kind of mixed it up a little bit. Like, I think I don't know, but I think any doctor looking at this might go, okay, huh, interesting. You might have 2 or 3 things. And that's kind of on purpose, to sort of like say, you're not going to be able to pinpoint exactly what it is. And it's really helped audiences go, oh, right. No, I know what this is, because they know what it is for themselves. I've had people come up to me and go, oh, yeah, he's got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did have somebody say to me, oh, he fell off the horse.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see that one, but
I don't either. But they were really like, oh, yeah, he fell off the horse. And yeah, I was like, huh, okay.
Yeah,
but it really meant to them that, right? And that's the point. And so that I think it was a way to help audiences look beyond any of the other issues in the film and connect to what it's like to care for another person who's very ill.
Absolutely. And to that, can you talk a little bit about the casting process? I mean, Coleman and Coleman Domingo and Malcolm Getz, like, with only one of them really having dialogue.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful relationship, so authentic. Like, it's very rare to get that out of talent in such an authentic way. And so how'd you go about finding these 2 actors to kind of lead your film? And, what do you think of their performances?
Well, first of all, on those performances, I think they are incredible. And one of the wonderful things about having those 2 men and their great talents on set together is, as a director, I didn't have a whole lot to do besides give them their initial blocking and let them know where the camera was going to be. They were so in tune with each other. But I think a lot of it might have to do with, you'd have to ask them, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that both men have been married for a very long time to their respective partners. I think Coleman and Raul have been married for like 18 years. And I don't know how long Malcolm and his partner have been married, but I think it's equal, somewhere up there, right? So they know what it is to be in a same-gendered marriage. And I think both of them actually got married before it was even legal to get married, right? So I think they brought a lot of that to it without even having to talk about it. And what's funny is that even off camera, between takes, they just sang show tunes. So like, it was, the mood on set was really fun and funny, and I think a lot of that has to do with both of them being, having had their careers on Broadway. I think that's where they met. They'd known each other. They met on Broadway. Right. They'd been at the Tonys together. They both got nominated for the Tonys at the same year. There's a photograph. I think they were at the same table. There's a photograph of the 2 of them together. And I really wanted to use that picture, like to put it up on the refrigerator or something, because it was both of them, younger together in a photo we didn't create. But I think the AP owns it, or Getty Images, and it was way too expensive. So, like, can't use that. But so I think they were just both able to really trust each other as artists. And I think a lot of it had to do with them understanding each other's work and having a lot of respect for each other's work. They were both very, very excited when they found out that each other were acting in the film together. And then the way that they came to the films are funny things, man. They don't, as much as you want to plan it all out, you have to, right? You have to plan it all out. You have to be very meticulous about your plans. But nothing ever works out the way it's supposed to, ever. It just doesn't.
Of course. Yeah.
And all your contingency plans go out the window too, including your budget. That happened to us over and over and over. And while as much as I wanted those two actors to be in the film, it was a journey to get there. But at the end of the day, schedules lined up. Coleman's schedule opened up for us right at the right time, and he was available to us. It worked out for Malcolm's schedule as well, and we got it done.
And you wrote Coleman a letter, right? Like a long message.
I wrote them. I mean, each actor, I wrote them the best letters I could possibly write. And the thing with Coleman's, I had approached him first, like 3 years before production. Wow. And his folks and him, his folks, I mean, like his representatives, his lovely managers and talent agents, and himself got back to me, and they were just like, "Hey, look, it's beautiful. He's booked, and of course he's booked. I mean, it's Coleman Domingo. I think he's on 25 TV shows and 75 movies at a time. So it's like, I knew this, but I had to ask, I had to. And so, so they kindly said, hey, we're booked for years. And I got it. And so I got another lovely actor to come on board, and it was phenomenal. My casting director, Jeffrey Gaffner, brought me Corey Reynolds, who was just phenomenal, and came on board to play James, and he helped us raise money, helped us get donors by doing a staged reading of the film with the rest of the cast, which I got to quickly tell you, Malcolm flew across the country to Los Angeles to sit on stage in a stage reading for like donors in a script that he doesn't have any lines in. Like there's nothing for him to read, and he still stole the show. Like he's such a good actor. Like he just
had to be heartwarming for you though, as the director, just like him making that effort to.
I know. I mean, like 0 words. I don't even think he had a script in his hands because he had no words. And so, so Corey was amazing. He was just so gung ho, and also he knew Kevin Bacon. Like he's friends with Kevin, and he's like, "Hey, let's try Kevin." Like, okay, let's try. And sure enough, Kevin loved the script and wanted to be a part of it. Schedules are hard, especially when you're working with talent that are working. All these folks are working constantly, and so it ended up Corey's schedule didn't line up, and then Coleman's did. Like, okay, we're back to Coleman, and that was just it was lovely for all of us, and we got to keep Corey on as an executive producer. So for me, it's just a win-win-win.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Kevin Bacon. So religion, particularly of the conservative ilk, is featured prominently throughout the film. What were you hoping the audience would take away from the moments between with Craig's sister as well as Kevin Bacon's crazy televangelist?
The whole point of that television, like the TV is almost its own character, right? Yeah. There's quite a few characters on there, and we see the weather, we see horrible news about horrible things like school shootings. We hear news commentary. There's a game show. All that's there. We filmed all that. We had to make all that, created all that to put into the TV. And then the televangelists, which is Laura Ennis and Kevin Bacon playing like televangelists on a morning show, like a daily morning show. He is risen with Owen and Jess. I really want it. I just wish I could make a spin-off just about that. But
I mean, Kevin Bacon just has that gift of like his character saying some really messed up stuff, but it's just Kevin Bacon. You're like, oh.
I mean, they were so great. It's so believable. But the whole point of that was sort of like it's almost like a Greek chorus, right? Because it's a short film. I don't have time to have the sister say everything she thinks and feels. Yep. But the television can help, and that's what the television was there for. Like, they're basically just spewing out everything she's got in her head. But they're on TV, so it's a little easier for us as an audience to take it in, because TVs and media just are relentless. They're just talking at us. It would be weird if she as the character said all that stuff, but it was a way to kind of compress the story and expand her character, because her character is those people on TV too, right? That's her whole world, and it's all happening at once. That's the compression, but it makes her character bigger, and it tells you a little bit more about what's on in her heart, in her head, and in her history.
Absolutely. And you also have a little lines that give additional context about the sister and where she just came from to get the medicine, and like.
Yeah. I mean, look, I tried to, I gave myself a challenge, right? When I first wrote North Star, it wasn't to make a short film. I was just sort of challenging myself, like, hey, how much can I put into a story, into a script, without saying it all out loud, but like getting the point across and keeping it short. And so, yeah, let's have a little discussion about healthcare in the United States, right? I mean, she does say she went to Canada to get it, which sucks that she has to do that, which also means they don't have enough money or insurance to pay for what he needs. And, it's not exactly what the film's about, but it's a part of it. It's part of all of our lives. Absolutely. And I think that this film has a lot of those little tiny moments of big issues coming in, because you and I and every other person in this country and in the world are dealing with this stuff all the time, right? We're not just one issue people. We got 10 or 20 that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And the funny part is, I think now, is that we also leave televisions, or we just scroll all day long. That's what I do, and it's just this constant feed of more issues and information, and it's it's brutal, and this is how we live. So I didn't have the scrolling in this movie, but the television's there, because I think a lot of people just leave that TV on in the background, and that's just feeding into your psyche and into your house, into your home, like these ideas, and maybe it's better to turn it off. That's coming from a guy who makes his money making media. Turn the TV off, but go to the movie theater. Go to the theater.
Yeah, go to the theater, and definitely North Star, please, if it's screening in your town, please check it out. I mean, before I let you go, I got to talk to you about the bathtub scene.
Yeah,
one of the most intimate, beautiful scenes in recent memory I've seen on film. Because the dedication is both moving and heartbreaking, right? Yeah. And what was it like filming that scene?
It was interesting. I don't even know if the actors really know this, because I don't think I've even debriefed them on half of the craziness that happened. One of the things is that's a real house, a very old house. Like, it's on the Oregon Trail. Like, that gives you there's like the barn outside. The little barn is built for the stagecoaches of the Pony Express, would like put the stagecoach inside there and they switch the horses out. That's what that ranch is. Wow. So that house is extremely old, and it had this clawfoot bathtub in it that we wanted to use. And we went to go do that scene, and we turned on the water. It was the worst color brown you could ever imagine. No. Oh, not a pretty color, not chocolate, worse. Like,
Yep.
And so the actors didn't see that. We didn't know them see that. They were upstairs in the wardrobe, like, getting ready to do this. And so the poor art director is having a heart attack, and we're trying to figure out what to do. And we checked the hot water tank, and the entire thing's just full of rust. It's just rust, but it's just disgusting. And we can't put the actors in this gross water. So I quickly have to go take them outside and do a different shot without telling them what's happening. Hoping, I told the art director, production designer, Matt McIntyre, I'm like, you got 30 minutes and I don't know what we're going to do. I said, just go get pots of water, put them on the stove, heat them up, and bring them in. Because somehow the kitchen sink had clean water, but not the tub, probably because the tub's lower. So ultimately, we did go do that. We came back, and they'd fixed the water. They had actually hooked up garden hoses from a cabin next door and taped them together and used the water from the cabin through the window to fill the tub up with hot water that was clean. So that nightmare was happening. I still don't think the talent even knows this. I've never told Coleman and Malcolm about that. And then when we had to shoot it, it was very intimate, and obviously, and I wanted it to feel like both that scene and the scene that precedes it, the bed scene where he's taking care of his partner and sort of taking, he cleans his partner, he changes his diaper, like it's intense. And I feel like these are moments that maybe we're not supposed to be there as a viewer, right? These are so intimate. We're not supposed to even be a fly on the wall, but we are. We're here to see it because it's beautiful and sad, as you mentioned. But the vulnerability, especially for the character Craig and his dignity, that's the kind of the part where you almost feel like, oh, should I even be here watching this? And then the bathtub scene, James and Craig are in that tub. I mean, but Craig just had his diaper taken off him, right? Like, this is kind of gross. And it's kind of very visceral. And yet it's so loving that his partner would even get in the tub with him like that. You would do that with a baby, sure, right? And James is a cowboy. He's dealt with what comes out of animals and mammals his whole life. It's all farming and ranching really is dealing with what comes out of creatures. So, and yet he was able to do it with his husband, and I liked that part. There's that skin to skin intimacy, but then also we shot it. Ernesto and I, my director of photography, we kind of talked about it being a baptism, right? Like, this is like a baptism or baptistry. The way the wood is, and the way the tub is, and the way that James sprinkles the water on Craig's body feels, a little bit like a baptism, and all that was very much intended, not for an audience to go, oh, it's a baptism, but for us in terms of theme, because there was something so deep and spiritual and intimate and loving about all of this, and even sacrificial, in that James is sacrificing his entire life to take care of his partner.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it, but just because you mentioned dignity, and Coleman is, he's massaging his partner, and he hears the groans because it can't be comfortable because he can't really move his body,
Yeah.
and he says, I know, and he's validating his pain, he's validating his discomfort, he's giving him his dignity, even though he may not feel like he has any because he can't move, he can't speak. And for me, that just hits so deeply in
Sure.
such a
Right. It's the validation, right? It's
yeah,
like, I see you. He doesn't actually say those words, but he's saying it in other ways. And I see you and you're valid to your lives and you feel. And you're right. He is speaking for him because he can't speak.
mhm,
Yeah. He says, I know, I know. He says it several times.
absolutely. Being in the film industry, do you feel like it's heading in the right direction with like LGBTQ plus stories, representation, or do you feel like a lot of things it could be a lot better?
Brandon,
I
I'm
mean,
turn on another light. The sun's
I think
going
I know
down
the
in here,
answer to
man.
this.
It's getting dark. All right, I'm back. I can see the sun just leaving and it's getting darker and darker as we talk. Um, yes and no.
Mhm.
Yes, and obviously in that there's a lot of representation in various places. And yes, I will just say that the fact that I got North Star made, right? Like we're seeing LGBTQ characters in North Star in a way we have not seen on film before. People keep really, it's really lovely that people keep being reminded of Brokeback Mountain with our film because we have got cowboys, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to talk about Brokeback and North Star in the same sentence, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. However, the difference is that our characters are not closeted and damaged, right? That their love and North Star, James and Craig's love is not up for argument. It just isn't, right? It's just a fact.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the beauty of it. And they're fighting for it, right? James will fight for what they have, but it's not an argument. Whereas, with Brokeback, and I think with a lot of other films, we've seen characters. Look, Brokeback's one of my very favorite films that's ever been made. Like that movie changed my life. But it's also just sort of lovely to see cowboys who are not broken and damaged. He might be ill, sure, but his soul isn't broken, and his love and his identity isn't broken. I want to see more of that. I've had a lot of conversations with Coleman, especially about this, and some with Malcolm recently. There is space for, like, just talking just in film festivals. There is space for a category in a film festival for LGBTQ plus. I get that. What's interesting is we don't apply to that when we make our application with North Star. North Star always apply to best drama or best narrative, and that's it. But we often get put into a category. It's fine, but we didn't ask for that, right? And I wonder at some point when does a film or any piece of media not get labeled by somebody else?
Mm.
Right now, if we self-label, that's fine, right? And we did self-label when we went to Outfest, an entirely LGBTQ plus festival. We did submit and we played there. It was wonderful. We just won out on film in Atlanta. We also I can't say it. I won't say it out loud because I'm embargoed, but there's more.
I mean, the website alone for North Star. There's so many accolades. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And so, but the thing is about it, like, I also want it to be that an audience can connect to a gay character in the same way they do with a straight character. Because the thing about the character in a film or a book or whatever it is, a podcast or a documentary, the main character, hi babe, um, the main character is an avatar for the audience, right? You as an audience member connect to the main character. That's why you feel engaged, or the main characters as an ensemble, right? You are a little bit of all the characters in 90210, right? Or in Seinfeld. You are every Tom Cruise character, right? That's how the protagonists are connected to the audience. But we rarely see a film where that character is LGBTQ in any sort of way, where that without it being labeled a gay film. And I just wonder, I guess it's even a struggle I'm having right now in my own career, in my mind, about, well, where are we? Because, like, I understand why we have a category, and it's important in a lot of ways, but when is it not? When is it just like, hey, we're just a drama?
Mhm.
When we shot the film, people would ask us, like, what's it about? And our to-go line was always, it's about a family who has to make a sacrifice. That's it.
And that's true.
It is true.
Absolutely true.
It is true. And if we went any further into the details of it, we could have run into snags with various vendors, various locations, whatever it was, right? Like we didn't know what we're getting ourselves into. And so we kept it out because it's very politicized and people have opinions. But what people don't have opinions about is a family. And the thing is, why can't this just be a family? And why does it have to why couldn't the discussion just stop right there? And in all honesty, Brandon, I'm rambling because I don't know the answers. I don't know. But these are the kind of the thoughts that are in my mind right now and sort of what I'm trying to figure out as well. So maybe the industry's at a turning point. I don't know.
I would hope so. But we'll have to wait and see how things shake out. But thinking about, life after North Star, because right now you're taking on the road, you're showing it to a bunch of different audiences.
Yeah.
What are some other stories you're hoping to tell in the future?
I wrote a feature script. It's done. Well, it's never really done, but it's done. It's out to people. It's never done until it's released. But the feature script, it's a solid 2 hours, 120 pages. It deals with all the same issues as North Star, but with different it's a different time period. It's kids in the 1980s.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good soundtrack.
The soundtrack's incredible. I don't think we can afford it.
Yep.
But I should send you the Spotify. I have a Spotify list for the soundtrack.
Oh, please.
Yeah, it's great. And it's called Son of a Preacher Man. That song's not on the soundtrack. And it's deeply autobiographical. It's my life.
That's amazing. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that when it's on the screen. PJ, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's a beautiful piece of work.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do after this.
Thanks, man. It's really good to talk to you.
Absolutely, man. Congratulations again on everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm very hopeful for you all as you're looking to go into award season.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, man.
All right.
Medium popcorn, we are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn, woo! You haven't seen it, well we're gonna spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if